So you are all at the free webinar, Designing the Perfect Dashboard. The perfect dashboard needs to be simple, usable, slick, and actionable. And we're going to help you to get a jump start on your dashboard design and to help you achieve these things. So the topics that we're going to cover today, we should be able to cover all 9 of them. The first one is designing usability into dashboards. So how do we accomplish that? The second is we're going to discuss the differences between actionable dashboards and customized homepages. What's the difference? What are the two? The third topic is creating simplicity and clear calls to action within the dashboard that you're designing. How do we achieve that goal? Fourth, we're going to talk about compromising between simplicity for novice users and then complexity for power users. How do we find that balance? Next, we'll discuss choosing data visualizations that are appropriate for our dashboards and appropriate color psychology that makes sense to our users. Then we'll discuss how to distinguish good user interfaces or UI from good usability or functionality. Next, we'll talk about usability research methods that help us to understand our users' workflows and tasks. Then we'll talk about prioritizing different usage scenarios to display the most relevant information. And lastly, we'll touch on contextualizing use to see actual usage scenarios. So let's get started with our first topic, which is designing usability into dashboards. And before we can discuss any of these topics, we have to first understand what a dashboard is. The simplest definition of a dashboard is that it's a user interface that presents information to users in a simple way. It doesn't make users' jobs more complex. It doesn't confuse the users. It assists them in a task that they have to accomplish. So let's talk about analytical dashboards. Dashboards can display operational or strategic data. And usually the best way to do this is to use drill down functionality. So this allows users to explore more of the data and get different insights. So it helps them to dig down and get more details of information. They can get a generalization or a summary of the information or the data, and then they can drill down and get as deep as they want to get. Also, different user groups require different types of dashboards. So you really have to do some research on the types of users that will be using the dashboards. What tasks do they need to complete? An example is that the marketing manager may need both a strategic and operational view of their data. So where it's possible, you want to create 2 separate dashboards whenever you can. So we did an internet search, a Google search, and we just typed in great dashboards just to see what came up. And we put up this photo just because we believe it is a great dashboard. The colors are great, the design is great, the layout's great. But the main focus of this photo is that a great dashboard can be displayed on any platform. So a great dashboard can be used on your computer, so large screens or monitors. They can be used on iPads, mobile devices. So they're responsive to the device that you're using. And great dashboards are just slick looking. I've been listening to some webinars on dashboard design and they say slick, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Your dashboard has to be slick looking. Otherwise, people don't want to use it. It's boring. And we're going to touch upon that today as well. So how do you get a great dashboard? Well, we're going to help you to touch upon that and how to accomplish getting a great dashboard for your company and for your users today. We're going to touch on some tips for you and some design pointers. But the process is very interesting. And a lot of companies skip different steps and they don't end up with a great dashboard. First, you have to really brainstorm and do a lot of work ahead of designing anything. And we're going to touch upon that today and what you need to do. Next, you sketch some ideas. You get some ideas on paper. You get some mock-ups done. You start testing it with actual users. You go back and do some revisions. So there are different research methods that you can do to accomplish this part of designing a great dashboard. And we're going to talk about those today as well. And then finally, the end result is an awesome dashboard. Look at this dashboard in an Audi. It's great. It's slick. It looks great. The user loves it. It's everything that they wanted and more. So you have to go through this process. If you skip any one step in the process, you're not going to achieve having a great dashboard. So before you can do any of this, you have to ask some key questions. Some key questions are, who will be using the dashboard? What actions are to be taken as a result of this dashboard you're producing? And how will it help the user work better, smarter, and faster? User adoption weighs heavily on the ease with which the dashboard can be used and the corresponding actions the users will take. If you create a dashboard where clients or users have to click on every button to figure out what the button does, or the icons don't make sense, that takes a lot of time from the task that they need to achieve from you creating the dashboard. Remember, you created a dashboard to achieve a problem, to help the user. So if you create a dashboard where it's confusing, they don't understand what the colors mean, they don't understand what the buttons mean, they don't get the icons, they have to use help menus, they're just adding confusion to their everyday work. And you were supposed to create this dashboard to ease their work, to help them get data or information quickly, simply. So you have to ask these key questions. The drill down method is great in the brainstorming stage. So dashboard's usability demands careful drill down on how the business or units function, on what business processes are involved, and who is using the dashboard and why. We keep coming back to this because a lot of companies create dashboards, but they never think about the person who's going to be using it. So the first steps is to gather information. So you're going to come up with your dashboard definition. What task is this dashboard going to accomplish for your user? Then you need to come up with business cases or scenarios of how the users will be using this dashboard. We get a lot of clients where they have to build a dashboard for multiple types of users. So they have marketing people who need to use the dashboard. And they have salespeople that need to use the dashboard. They have management that need to use the dashboard. And all has to be one dashboard. So how do you adapt the dashboard to all these different users? And lastly, you need to look at the return on investment, sizing considerations, data definitions, and blueprints. So who's involved in this process, or who should be involved? Definitely your IT department, because they're the ones who are going to be building the dashboard. They need to be in on the brainstorming part of the sessions that you have with management and business leaders. You need management involved because they understand the functions of the dashboard. They understand their users and what they're going to need to accomplish from this dashboard. And business leaders always want to be involved. Their key importance here is return on investment. That's their agenda. And so you're going to have many meetings with all three. You're going to have a discovery phase, a brainstorming phase. You're going to be writing up mock-ups. You're going to be having a lot of workshops with whiteboarding, workflows, supporting content, data definitions. You're going to be doing all of this with all three. But where are the usability experts in this process? So many times clients contact us after they've done some of these steps. They have a mock-up and they're ready to put it out there to their users. They want us to come in, and usually at that point what we do is an expert review because it's already been produced. They're ready to put it out to their users. So the best thing to do is an expert review. So we have our PhD experts, usability experts, go through the dashboard. They usually write up an 80 to 100 page report going through the dashboard, what works, what doesn't. They look at everything, color psychology, the user interface, what type of design are you using? What types of users is this for? Did you do user scenarios? Did you do task analysis? All of these things that we're going to be talking about later on. Most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, marketing will come to us and say, we know the color psychology has to go. These are our company colors. We have to go with these. And most of the time, it doesn't make sense on the dashboard. And so we come in and assist with that. Or maybe the design of the dashboard doesn't make sense. Maybe they're using bar graphs when they need to be using line charts, or maybe they're using dials when they need to be using some kind of different icons. So we come in and we help to better the dashboard through this report. So we go through and we say, okay, this doesn't work, this works. What doesn't work, here are some suggestions. And then we can go through some different research methods with them, which we'll talk about later on, to assist them in making the dashboard better before they put it out to their users. So again, usability experts really need to be brought in at the brainstorming phase of a project. We're working with a couple clients right now where we were brought in after the prototype was made and it was going to the users. And we did our expert review and found a ton of stuff that needed to be fixed. Ton of stuff that didn't make sense to the users. And so we gave our suggestions. We also did rapid iterative design with them, which we'll talk about in just a moment, where we kind of do that going back and forth, where we give suggestions. The IT team implements those suggestions. We see the improvements, we make more changes, and kind of do that going back and forth for a week or two. And that really makes the dashboard better. Because we got to see the solutions that we came up with live, done, implemented. We can actually show the user, get some feedback, and do that going back and forth to really refine the final dashboard. But it's not very cost effective to do it that way. Companies spend a lot more to have us come in at the end and do expert reviews and then do this testing back and forth. And it delays getting the dashboard to the users. So here they thought, okay, we're going to have a usability expert just look at it so we can say, oh, we had a usability expert look at it. I'm sure there's just a couple of things that need to be fixed. And we end up writing 80 to 100 plus page report to the company saying, okay, this was good, but this isn't, and this is why, and here's some solutions for making it better. So if we can be brought in at the brainstorming part of the project, that's the best scenario. And we have clients right now where we were brought in once a prototype was done and it was ready to be delivered to the user. And we did all of our testing, expert reviews at the end, which was not very cost effective. And now on new projects, they're having us be there from the very beginning. And they're finding out that that's more cost effective than bringing us in at the end. They're also finding that they did need usability experts. A lot of their team said, no, we know our users, we know what they want. We had them test the prototype. They gave us feedback. We're good. We did our user testing. But you don't know the types of questions to ask the users, and you're too heavily involved in the project. I like how all through school, our writing teachers would always say, you can revise and revise and revise your paper. However, having a second set of eyes, an outside person looking at your paper, they're going to be able to reveal different things that you wouldn't even have looked at or you kept overlooking because you're too involved. It's your paper. It's the same thing with designing dashboards or software or whatever you're designing. A fresh set of eyes is better than the same people looking at it over and over again. And even users start getting confused. They just really want a dashboard to present certain types of information or data to them. And they don't care how it's done, how you do it. They want to make sure it accomplishes their task. And sometimes they're just at the point like, I need this tool. I need it yesterday. Just give it to me. This is better than what I have now. And then they just roll with it and that's it. And it's not better. They find out that there's all sorts of problems or that it's adding more confusion to their everyday tasks. So involve usability experts from the beginning, but if you can't, definitely bring them in at some point. So it's very critical to be involved in that stage. We do expert reviews. So those are conducted after mock-up sessions. And then we do testing. We involve your users to test out the new dashboard. We ask the correct questions to ask to get feedback that we need in order to make the dashboard better. So now let's talk about differences between actionable dashboards and customized homepages. Actionable dashboards really help users to see data in an easy to understand format. So many times clients come to us and they have some mock-ups together. They're developing an actionable dashboard, and the data is like, oh, what does this even represent? A lot of people like to make bar graphs, and they don't have legends. They don't tell you, they have like 6 different colors in the bar graph. You have no idea what's going on. It's just very confusing. They say to us, well, you don't understand what these colors mean or why we have 6 different colors, but our users do. And then we go and we test the users, and the users are like, we have no clue what any of this means. And then we go back to the company and they say, well, this is what we used in our old dashboard. So we're putting it into the new dashboard so that there isn't a learning curve. And some things like that, taking from an old dashboard or old reports, putting it into a new dashboard, sometimes works, but most of the time doesn't. So you really have to analyze each thing that you're bringing over. You also want to make sure that users are able to interact with the data. Just having them click on certain different topics and having charts come up, that gives them the data, but they want to be able to interact with the data. Having the user interact with the interface is key to creating a good or a great dashboard. If they can use sliders or they can adjust dials to different scenarios, great for people who are in analytics or marketing. They want to see a certain scenario, how it would play out, or they don't think they're having a good quarter and they want to see how it's going to play out if it's not a good quarter, or whatever the scenario is. Having users interact with the data is great. It keeps them engaged with the dashboard. It helps them to achieve even more than what they thought they could have. Alerts, trending, patterns, involving all of those 3 key components into your dashboard really helps users as well. Gauges and drill down charts. This allows even the least tech savvy user to be a data analyst. So it really helps them out because they can visually see the information instead of it just being presented to them or being told to them. So there are 3 types of actionable dashboards. There's operational, there's strategic/executive, and there's analytical. So the first one is operational, and these are dashboards that display data that facilitate the operational side of a business. So just as an example, we have dashboards where we do website monitoring because part of our business is designing websites and helping with the usability of designing websites. And so we have a dashboard for website monitoring, and it monitors load times for each page of the website. So you can have different operational dashboards, but that's just one example. It really monitors the nerve center of your operation. So whatever that may be for your industry. Next is strategic dashboards. These can provide KPIs, which are key performance indicators that a company's executive team tracks on a periodic basis. It's different for every company, but you could be looking at periodic revenue, costs, headcount, sales pipeline. It should provide the executive team with high-level overview of the state of the business, together with opportunities the business faces. So putting those 2 together. And next is analytical dashboards. And these can display operational or strategic data. They have drill down functionality, which allows the users to explore more of the data and get different insights. And it usually works with different user groups. So we talked about this earlier, where you could have 3 different user groups using one dashboard. So the marketing manager may need both a strategic and operational view of their data. So you always want to make sure that if you have more than one user group, that you create two separate dashboards. So dashboards are different from customized homepages. Customized homepages are static pages made for a certain group of users. They're usually not interactive and they don't upload data in real time. So we have some clients that come to us and they're like, well, what's the difference? Maybe we should be doing this versus making a dashboard and going through all of this. And usually the answer is no, you want a dashboard. Sometimes customized homepages are key to a business's success and they don't need a dashboard, but most of the time, not true. So a customized homepage is just a static page made for a certain group of users, usually only one group of users. So let's talk about creating simplicity and clear calls to action. Here at Situated Research, one point of our company mission is to keep it simple. Keep it simple for users. If you keep it simple, users will be more engaged. They'll be more inclined to use the dashboard and they'll be happier. So with simplicity with dashboards, you just set clear goals. You tell a clear story. You know what you want presented to the user. So keep it simple. It's the biggest impact on users, making sure that the dashboard is easy to understand and that information is presented in a clean and clear manner. If you do this, you will create a great dashboard. So some tips for simplicity. A great tip is to break your complex data into bite-sized chunks. So that drill down method really, really helps. We have a lot of clients that create mock-ups for their dashboard and it's all this information on the page. And it's like, okay, how do I drill down? How do I get deeper in? How do I get more details? And they're not allowing a way for you to do that. So break your complex data into bite-sized chunks. Make it simple. Provide summaries when you can, and then use the drill down method from the summaries. Move the details into their own section, making them just as important as the summaries. Don't overwhelm your users with too much information at one time, but allow them to dig at their own pace. So some dashboards that come to us where we do expert reviews, they took their complex data and they turned it into bite-sized chunks, which was great. They provided summaries and used the drill down method, which was really good. They understood that they needed to do that. However, the software, the dashboard, assisted the user in the pace that they dug down. Meaning that some dashboards that we see won't allow you to look at certain details or drill down to certain information unless you first look at the summary or you first look at a certain detail first. Maybe the user already knows that information. Maybe they don't care about that information in between and they need to get down to the nitty-gritty all the way at the end. You need to allow them to dig at their own pace. The other key to making your dashboard simple and adding that simplicity to your users' everyday tasks is to put yourself in your user's shoes and ask yourself if your presentation is understandable and on target. And sometimes that's hard for teams to do. And that's why you want to bring in a usability expert because we can do that. So how do you create clear calls to action? Clear calls to action are crystal clear. They have a strong why are we doing this? And when you're writing up these calls to action for your dashboards, you want to research the users who will be using the dashboard. This is key. And a lot of people don't do this because marketing departments or management say, okay, we know our users. They're our clients. We work with them all the time. We understand what they're looking for. But in retrospect, you really don't. And you haven't asked the key questions and you haven't researched and you haven't talked to them and you haven't interviewed them and you haven't done task analysis and all this other stuff. So you have to research users. Now let's talk about compromising between simplicity for novice users and complexity for power users. This is always hard to find that balance. A lot of companies come to us and they say, we have users in the sales department who just need to know the sales information. And then we have marketing that needs to know all the detailed information. How much was sold? What was sold? How many units were sold? All this really detailed information where the sales department, we just really don't need them to know all of that. We just want them to know certain pieces of information. So they just need to know the summaries, and the marketing department needs to know all the details. So those are two different types of users. So how do I find a balance? Well, balance is key when you're designing dashboards for different user types. And usually when you're designing a dashboard, you're not designing it for just one user type. There's usually multiple groups of people that you're designing it for. So you don't want to sacrifice complexity, yet you don't want to overdo simplicity. So you have to do that research of who your users are, what their capabilities are, and get a balance. You have to design different sections of the dashboard for your different user types. We just designed a dashboard for a company where they had two different user types, sales department and marketing department. And we designed different sections of the dashboard for management, marketing, and then a different section for the salespeople. And so we had just different logins so that they could only see certain pieces of information, certain data, and it worked out great. And so that's a great way to find that balance. Next, let's talk about choosing data visualizations and appropriate color psychology that makes sense. And this is kind of where, do you make a slick looking dashboard, or do you worry about design and all of that? You want to worry about design, of course. You want to worry about your user groups. And like I said at the beginning, I've been attending a lot of usability companies' webinars on designing great dashboards, and they all say the same thing. You don't have to make your dashboard slick. You have to make it usable. Yes, usability is key. However, here at Situate Research, we believe that dashboards need to be slick as well. They have to catch the user's eyes. If you think about it, most of you are sitting in your office right now listening to this presentation. If I created a presentation that was boring, where I had a bunch of line graphs with numbers, where you couldn't interact with it, where you couldn't see great photos or good visualizations in the presentation, you'd be bored and you'd leave. Simple as that. It's the same thing with a dashboard. This dashboard is supposed to help you with your everyday tasks at work. And if it's boring, you're going to be sitting at your desk with your hand under your chin and your other hand on your mouse trying to do your job, and you're going to be bored. Why would you do that to your users? Make it slick. Make it eye-catching. Make sure that the data visualizations that you put in your dashboard have a purpose. We had a couple clients recently where we were creating a dashboard for them, and they wanted to use these visualizations that just didn't go with their company. They wanted to use a dashboard literally like in a car. And it was a medical company. I was like, this has nothing to do with your company. What you want to do is to put medical references into the dashboard. You want to make it more referenced for the user so that they can take what they do in their everyday life. They're working in a medical facility and it has purpose. It means something to them. And they're like, oh, well, a car dashboard. Everybody drives a car. They're familiar with a car dashboard. And I said, it has nothing to do with your business. So make sure that the visualizations that you have in your dashboard have a purpose and relate to your business. And use a graphic designer, use a professional graphic designer, because that'll help you to create slick and catch users' eyes with those cool icons, great colors, all of that combined into one. So color psychology is key. So graphic designers know about color psychology. Some of them really know color psychology and others don't. When we talk about color psychology, most of the time marketing departments get involved because they say to us, okay, here are the colors that you need to use for the dashboard, and we can't deviate from those colors. or here's our company logo and we can't use any other colors than what's in our logo. And you have to find a balance. You have to find a compromise because not all the time do the colors in a company's logo work with the dashboard that you're creating. Sometimes marketing people will say, well, here's our print materials. You can choose colors from here. And it's very limited. And they don't understand that different colors mean certain things. Red means stop, yellow means caution, green means go. Everyone sees colors differently. So usually professional graphic designers have an understanding of color psychology and can help you with that when creating your dashboard. So as far as data visualizations go, dials are great to use. And as you can see here on the left, there's a great dial here with a green marker, which is where the company should be at. And the red marker is where they're at. So they can kind of gauge and see how far they have to go to reach their goal. And this is a great visualization for a company. It's very simple. They understand the dial and they understand the colors, red and green. So on the right, we have our dashboard color picker, and there's all types of colors that you can pick. But you have to really look at your industry, your company, your purpose, your goals, and your users in order to choose the correct colors. On the bottom is a great dashboard that we found on the internet that shows on the far left their closed sales to date. And so the gauge will show them where they're at. Red means bad. Yellow means you're okay, and green means good. Everybody knows this. It's standard. It's color psychology. Everybody understands that. And so on. You can use the colors in bar graphs, pie charts, line graphs, whatever you name it, it can be done. But it has to be done in a way that the colors make sense to the users. So with color psychology, just showing you a few more examples, the KPI status block here shows sales are green, so that means good. Their percentage in their market is green, which is good. Their budget is a little off, more on the low end, so they need to work on that. And the amount of people that they have working is almost good. They're almost to the green, but they need to work on that a little bit more. And the bottom photo shows your project management percent complete, and they're doing very, very well. Green means good. So this is just to show you red, bad, you need to work on things. Yellow's caution. If it's at the end of the scale, work on some things. If it's at the end of the scale, you're doing pretty good. You're almost in the green, and green is good. So everybody knows these three colors. There are other colors as well, but you have to make sure that you understand what colors that you're using for your dashboard and what makes sense to your end users. So let's talk about slick versus boring. So like I said, those other usability webinars I've attended, they said, don't worry about your dashboard being slick, make sure that it's usable. Well, both of these dashboards are usable. However, which dashboard would you want to use? I'd want to use the one on the top. It's got cool icons. They're glossy looking. It's appealing. It's as big as my fingertip. It makes me want to use it. The bottom dashboard, it looks confusing, for one. For two, the colors are red and black. Not really too sure what black's meaning here. What red's meaning. The charts are a little weird. So it's just boring. And some companies come to us and they say, well, we're using the software for our reporting system right now, and we have to integrate it into our dashboard. And if we don't do that, then we have to recreate these charts. We have to recreate these reports. And some of the time, about 80% of the time, that's probably the best way to do it. We have some software that people are using that it looks like this bottom photo. And users are bored. They don't want to use it. And they say, what's the difference with me printing out the report versus using your dashboard? It's not interactive. It's not fun. It's not slick looking. It's boring. There is no difference. So now let's talk about topic 6, which is distinguishing good user interfaces or UI from good usability or functionality. So good interfaces, you want to make sure that you highlight changes within the interface. You want to make sure that there are keyboard shortcuts and that buttons make sense. Everything on the interface has to make sense to the end user. If the end user can't use the dashboard or accomplish their goals, then the dashboard is aimed useless. What's the point? And good usability just means that all the goals were met. So remember at the beginning, you set your goals for the dashboard. Make sure that if you have good usability, those goals are met. Make sure that there's no explanations. Like I talked about earlier, icons make sense to users. You don't have to hover over a button to find out what it does. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. Situated research, we hate that. When you have to hover over a button and a little pop-up box comes up and tells you what the button does, bad, bad. If you have that in your dashboard right now or even on your website, please fix it. Users shouldn't have to have an explanation. Everything should come second nature to them. They should know what the icon means. If they don't know, change it. And users understand all the information that you're presenting to them. Dashboards are developed in order to present data to users in different ways so that any level of user can understand it. If you accomplish this, you have a usable dashboard, plain and simple. And keyword simple. Keep that dashboard simple. Now we're going to talk about a few usability research methods that help us to understand the user's workflows and tasks. So these are not in any particular order, but what you want to do first is to interview your users. So interviewing your users, you want to understand their goals. You want to understand how users are influenced by their environment and what previous knowledge do they have? What do they bring to the table? Then you want to do task analysis. So how are users performing these tasks currently? How is the dashboard going to help them? What are they trying to accomplish? A great research method that we do that helps out a lot is rapid iterative testing. Because again, we're usually brought in at the very end once a prototype is ready to go to the user. And this always happens, even though we have webinars and we tell everybody brainstorming stage, get us in at the beginning, it's more cost effective, they wait. So rapid iterative testing is great because we do rounds of testing. So we do that expert review. We give them our feedback and solutions for fixing those problems. And then we start the first iteration of testing. So we give them a few tasks to complete and fix on the dashboard. They fix them. Their IT department develops. They give us the newest prototype. We go ahead and take a look at it and we make it even better. It keeps getting refined. Then we work on the next tasks and do the second iteration. So it's a lot of tweaking, it's a lot of revisions back and forth, but the end product is great. All of our clients, they want to use us for their next projects. We have some clients that want to do mobile websites or redo their current website, or they want to create an app, or they're creating software and they need usability assistance with that. So we have clients that we work with them for years and years and years and years because their projects don't end. They always are developing something new and they always need usability help. After we help them with the first project, they're hooked. They know that it's way better than what they designed at the very beginning. We just had a client the other day where they presented the final prototype to the president of the company, and the president said, "Oh my God, I didn't think that we needed usability experts, but this is such a vast difference from what we had. What we had before was boring and it just didn't catch anyone's eye. It wasn't interactive. It just didn't make sense to the users. And this is just so simple and they're going to love it." And it went to the users and the users are so excited. They haven't had anything bad to say. We interviewed them and did some feedback and all was good. They're really, really happy. So it accomplished their task and made their everyday life easier. Now let's talk about prioritizing different usage scenarios to display the most relevant information. So you really, again, need to interview those users. You need to talk to them. After you do that, you literally want to write out scenarios. Because let's say you're making a dashboard for the marketing department. Well, maybe certain people in the marketing department need certain information for a certain scenario and others need it for another one. And so you want to write up those scenarios, because as you're helping to develop the dashboard or make it more user friendly, you're going to be referring back to those scenarios. You want to make sure that you hit on everything. You want to make sure that that dashboard answers all of the user's questions and it makes their task easier. You want to prioritize, though, these scenarios from most important to least. Obviously, the most important ones you want to work with first and work your way down. Finally, let's talk about contextualizing using use to see actual usage scenarios. So after you have these usage scenarios, you need to contextualize the use. So we do this through situated action, and situated action is the notion that people's behavior is contextualized. So the situation is a very important factor in determining what people will do. So you have to look at their environment. You have to look at the situation in which they're going to be using the dashboard. In an extreme view, this is the idea that you can't generalize and predict people's behavior from one situation to the next. Thus, this suggests an approach to usability which says to understand each user's, or more commonly, each organization's specific and detailed needs in designing software for them by carefully examining how they work and how situational and organizational factors fit into that process. So, by interviewing, by working with the users in their everyday work, actually sitting with them at their desk, seeing what their tasks are, how they complete them currently, can really, really help you to contextualize and to build the new dashboard for them to achieve their goals, to achieve their tasks, to make life easier for them. So just to go through our review today, we touched on designing usability into dashboards and how to accomplish that. What processes should be taken and who should be involved within that process. We also talked about the differences between actionable dashboards and customized homepages. And so actionable dashboards are usually what you want to go for because they're going to help users be interactive with that data. The data will always be changing. They can use the drill down method. It's just a better approach. Next, we talked about creating simplicity and clear calls to action. So just making sure that those clear calls to action are clear, simple, and actually help to achieve a goal of your users. Next, we talked about compromising between simplicity for novice users and complexity for power users. So finding that balance. Most of the time, if you're going to have multiple users, what you want to do is to create two different dashboards or different sections of the dashboard for different user groups. Next, we talked about choosing data visualizations and appropriate color psychology that makes sense. So obviously, we all know red, yellow, and green and what those mean. But when you bring in marketing departments and you have to use certain colors, you're going to have to make sure that those colors make sense to your users. If a piece of data is bad, you don't want the color to be purple. You don't want it to be blue. You want it to be red. You want it to be a warning to the user saying, hey, this is bad. You guys are way down. You need to get things up. Green is your goal and you're way down here in red. That's bad. And every user knows this association, this color psychology. So use it to your advantage. Use it to better your dashboard. And make sure that those data visualizations that you use work with your industry, your company. Don't choose visualizations that don't make sense, like the gauges in a car for a medical company or gauges for a school. It just doesn't make sense. For a school, you may want to use a chalkboard. Teachers can better visualize. They work on chalkboards all day and use a chalkboard as your backdrop. And that's a good data visualization. That's just an example, but you want to make sure that it works within your company, it works within your industry, it makes sense. They go together. There's a purpose. Next, we talked about distinguishing good user interfaces from good usability, from functionality. So making sure that the interface is good and that users understand it and it's simple to use. versus good usability or functionality. The drill down method is great, but if you make it too complex and the data doesn't make sense, it's not a usable dashboard. Next, we talked about usability research methods to understand users' workflows and tasks. Task analysis is important, and I keep repeating myself throughout this whole webinar, but interviewing your users is key to the success of your dashboard. If you don't interview your users, you don't involve them through the whole process, you don't involve usability experts, your dashboard won't be great. And next, we talked about prioritizing different usage scenarios to display the most relevant information. So, actually writing down those scenarios where your users will be accessing this information or using this dashboard really puts you in tune with what they're looking for, what their tasks are, what their goals are. And finally, contextualizing use to see those actual usage scenarios helps you to create a great dashboard. So I want to thank all of you for attending today. Again, our company is called Situated Research, and we're located here in Chicago. There's our office number. If you need any assistance with your dashboard design, please contact us. You can contact us directly at our phone number, or you can email us at info@situatedresearch.com. You can also visit us on the web at www.situatedresearch.com. And we'd be more than happy to assist you. An expert review takes about a week to do. We can do it remotely. We do it remotely all the time where people just give us a remote desktop access. And we can go ahead and access the dashboard, software, video game, website, app, whatever it is. We can go ahead and do some testing for you and give you some good feedback. Again, some companies just want that expert review and then they just go with that. Other companies get the expert review and it's like 80 to 100 plus pages. They get that report and they're like, wow, there's a lot that we need to work on. There's a lot that we didn't even think of that's in this report. We need help. So we can help with that as well. So I'll leave you with our contact information. If you do need assistance, please contact us. We're more than happy to help you. And again, our name is Situated Research, and I'm going to go ahead and leave our contact information up. I want to go ahead and thank all of you for attending today, and have a great afternoon.